Well, if you're out in the market looking for a full-size brute of an ADV motorcycle, well, the BMW 1250 GS has been one of the best in its segment. But competition was catching up, so BMW had no option but to up the game. And here we are with the new 1300 GS. Now, this bike claims to be 90% new compared to the 1250 GS. It's not just a minor update. It has a lot of new tech, it has a lot of new features, but most importantly, BMW claims that this motorcycle is lighter and a lot has been done to make it more accessible to new riders. But is that true or not? And how better is this to ride, or is it not? Let's find out, and for that we are pretty much in the perfect place on the planet. We are in Leh, well, right now near Leh, on the way to the Warila Pass, and in this beautiful scenery, let's put the 1300 GS to the test. Shake well before use. It's not a terminology that you would associate with motorcycles, but with the new R1300 GS, it holds true. And why so? Well, this comes with a new key fob. Now when you turn off the motorcycle, put it into its dedicated slot, it goes into sleep mode to conserve the battery. Now when you come and just press the ignition button, nothing happens. You need to take the key fob out, give it a shake, press the ignition, then it comes to life, fire up the bike. Now the BMW R1300 GS has a lot of cool new features and tech, and let me tell you one of these. Now you see this windscreen. Well, in a lot of motorcycles, in fact in the 1250, the older 1250, adjusting the windscreen was a problem. But in this, not anymore. You can do it on the fly. You just go to certain settings in the menu, quite easy to navigate, and well, there you have it. The windscreen goes up. So as per your riding preference, you can put it up, you can put it down. In fact, you can also detach it and change its position. So basically, if you want adjustments, you no longer need to buy a new one, you can just adjust it. Now, one of the biggest problems with big, heavy ADV motorcycles is the weight. And then, if you want to put the motorcycle on the main stand, that's a big challenge. But with the new BMW R1300 GS, they solved the problem partially. Now, you put the stand down and the wheel will itself go down. The bike lifts, making it easier. Just notice the wheel. Once it comes up, a slight push, and a motorcycle as heavy as this, a guy with a slim frame like me could put it up easily. That's technology for you. Now, design makes the first impression, and with the 1300 GS, you get a pretty good one. The first distinctive feature that you see up front is this new headlamp. Very different from the 1250 GS. It's got this different pattern. Now, it might not be up to everyone's taste, but design is a subjective matter, so some might love it, some might not. But at the end of the day, from a functional perspective, it is better than the 1250. BMW claims it also has a higher number of LEDs and cornering lamp as well, if you of course go in for the better option. Beyond that, if you look at the wheels, again spoke wheels, which you would expect in an ADV. The disc brakes have been uprated, and the suspension, well, this is something unique, which has been unique to the 1250, carries on to the 1300 but has improvement. So you see these shocks and the spring up back. You also have this pivot point, which has been modified now to basically improve the movement of the motorcycle when it's moving. It's not about the vertical, the damping, but the way the suspension moves back and forth. So that has been reduced to give the rider more of a stable feel. Also, when you move back, again, the tank, well, compared to the 1250 GS, it's a lot sleeker, so it feels a lot smaller and less intimidating. Now that's the key word, because with 1250 GS, intimidating was something that a lot of new riders would feel. So this one feels a lot more accessible. Of course, you have the boxer engine, some minor changes in the design as well. Feels a little more balanced now, and this is a trademark thing for the GS, so this continues. It's something good. Even when you look at the seat now, one good thing here is that the seat material has been carried on to the tank. So the same soft pad material is on the tank as well. Comes in quite handy when you're doing off-road riding. So that is something good. A nice functional upgrade. Even in terms of a foot peg, or if I talk about the rider triangle, not much of a drastic change, but for an ADV, I think it's got the perfect rider triangle and a very good seating position. You've got a stepped up seat here, of course, a lot of space to put up those panniers or tie your luggage, an upswept exhaust, and yeah, I mean, even at the back, when you look at it from this side, now you have a longer swing arm, and BMW claims it is better in terms of stiffness as well, so it aids handling. And you've got these tires which again help it conquer not just the road but terrain like this as well. So that's about a brief on the design and the functional changes that have gone into the 1300 GS. But a lot is new. Even that instrument cluster is new. There are a lot of features in this, even in terms of power, torque, the way this motorcycle rides. So let's talk about that, and let's go ahead and explore this beautiful place that we are in today. Alright, now let's talk about the most interesting part of the R1300 GS, and that's its powertrain and dynamics. Now let's get the basic stats out of the way first. First of all, the engine. Now this is the most powerful boxer engine built by BMW ever for any of its motorcycles. It's got an entirely new design, and it's not just the engine, but the entire motorcycle is focused on weight saving. But the engine alone now features 12 kilograms of weight saving. It also comes with a ton of new electronics, including engine drag control, dynamic brake assist, hill start control as well, and you also get the Gear Shift Assistant Pro and Riding Modes Pro if you're going in for the standard dynamic package. But how does it fare on the road at the end of the day? Because the proof lies in the pudding, and that's exactly what we found out during our ride. Now to start with, this new motorcycle feels a lot more accessible than the 1250. The visual bulk has reduced, it is lighter, and it looks smaller and lighter as well, and that's a good thing because it is not intimidating. It's not completely accessible as well. It's not that small, but yes, it's less intimidating than the 1250. Once I got my legs across this motorcycle and got a bit comfortable, I quickly put on the heated grips on. It was pretty cold around the place where we were riding in Leh, so these heated grips did come in handy. But mind you, if you're using even in the coldest place, I don't think you'll need it to be at beyond 2. I was comfortable with just the first setting. 3 can get really hot, so avoid that unless you're in some really sub-zero, very cold polar temperatures. The engine is butter smooth, more refined than the earlier unit in the 1250, and as we rode along the smooth roads, the engine just purred silently. But every now and then, when we had a nice stretch of tarmac in front of us, opened up the tap, and all of the 145 horsepower and the 149 newton meters of torque came gushing in. And then this motorcycle does make a fair bit of sound and lets you know what's lurking underneath the engine. In terms of power, it has enough power to get through with anything and everything. You can get even the best of the highway rides done with ease, no problems at all. And the engine at no point feels gruff and remains silent. What I really loved about this engine is that it's got a linear power delivery, so that makes it very easy to handle this ADV, because in an ADV you do not want a very sharp throttle response. You want it to be linear, especially on those loose and tricky surfaces.
That's exactly what the R1300 GS delivers. One odd thing though, which I did find out, was that every now and then, somewhere between 4.5 and 5,000 RPM, the rev limiter would just kick in momentarily. Sometimes it wouldn't. Later, BMW folks told us that it's due to the new magnetic shifter, which senses if your foot is near the shifter. We tried working around that, but still I did face some issues. But maybe when you're owning the bike and get used to it in a few days, I think it should be better. We also tried the riding modes, and there are a fair bit of them on this motorcycles, but for most of the part we stuck to road. But if you find a really nice wide fast flowing road, switch to Dynamic Pro and things stiffen up, the throttle sharpens up, and the motorcycle is just more fun to ride. And if you get the going get tough, you've got an off-road stretch, well, switch to Enduro Pro and things will become easier for you. One thing that I really liked about this motorcycle is the balance. Now, of course, while all these roads that we traverse through, a lot of twisties, a lot of inclines, and through all of these, managing the weight of this motorcycle, which a lot of you might be thinking by now would have been hard, was just totally easy. Once this motorcycle is on the move, it just somehow magically lets go of all of the weight. Be it at slow moving turns, at fast flowing corners, the R1300 GS is very swift and agile. The only place where you do have to be mindful though is U-turns. And my God, taking U-turns, especially on inclines, can be a bit of a pain, especially for someone like me who's not used to riding an ADV on a regular basis. But I'm sure people who will own it will get used to it, so things should be easier. Also, in terms of handling, the motorcycle performs flawlessly. It leans into corners with a lot of confidence. It doesn't mind being exposed to a series of fast flowing corners. It handles all of that with ease. The seat is quite comfortable, and you can be on this for hours and still not have your back complaining. So yes, as an ADV, I think the R1300 GS makes great sense. It's more refined than earlier version. It's more powerful. It feels a lot sharper. It feels a lot more accessible, and that's what's the most important takeaway from me. As someone who's not a very keen ADV rider, I found myself to be a lot more comfortable on the R1300 GS compared to the 1250 which I had ridden earlier, and that's what makes the biggest change for me. But overall, I go back from Leh very happy riding this brilliant piece of machinery.
So it's been a great day of riding, and after going through some fantastic tarmac and these off-road conditions, we are back to the pretty much same place with these sandy and snow-capped mountains in the background. Now coming to the 1300 GS. Well, like I said in the starting of the video, BMW claims it's 90% newer, but the main objective has been to make it lighter and more accessible. At that, the company has definitely been successful. So this comes across as a more accessible motorcycle than the 1250 GS, but still, for someone like me, who's not a regular off-road rider, who's not an ADV enthusiast, who rides on these surfaces sometimes, well, this is still not one of the most comfortable motorcycles I would want to be in. I mean, out on the move, it's super light, super maneuverable, very easy to handle. But the moment you have to come to a standstill or maneuver it or turn around in places like this, well, the weight does come into play. So as long as you can be fine with that, as long as you're able to tackle that, I think as a motorcycle, this is a brilliant upgrade over the 1250 GS. And it's not a radical upgrade over the 1250 GS, but what really makes it such a big upgrade is the fact that incremental upgrades have been made in almost every area. So you have a lot of small incremental upgrades, and when you add them up, you get in totality a very nice motorcycle that feels like a big upgrade. Now coming to the prices, well, this is a pre-launch ride. It hasn't been launched yet, but expect higher pricing than the 1250 GS. But if you are paying more, be sure that you're getting a lot more in turn as well.